.tv.
Just .tv. All right, we are live now, and I wanted to welcome you to Ace in the Hole. We have a really fun show today. I'm going to be talking about the number one attribute as a business owner that you must have, really as anyone, as a sports person, as a business owner, as a mother, as a father, as whatever you want to talk about. This is the number one attribute, according to the highest paid executive coach in the world, Marshall Goldsmith, who happens to be the coach on Ace in the Hole. So the number one attribute is accountability. So he has done all kinds of research over the years to determine how to help someone become successful and what that means, and how to be a high producer in the world. And what he has found in all of his research that he's done over the years is that you have to be accountable. Meaning there's someone else outside of yourself that you're accountable to. Now, there are a lot of people who have some level of self-accountability, and those people become more and more successful. But for most of us, like me or other business owners that I know who have ADHD and who aren't super organized, who are visionaries, it's a really great idea to have someone to help you to be accountable. Obviously on the show, we have these coaches that hold people accountable to scaling their businesses. And we've scaled businesses from 3 to 30x just being on the show under a year. So I'm going to bring in Clayne. Clayne Wayman is... he is a master at business. He's a master at knowing yourself. He's actually doing this amazing retreat in the Amazon this year. But he is one of the most successful men that I know. And I'm going to bring him in. We're going to talk a little bit about this concept of accountability. Hey, Clayne, how are you?
I'm doing awesome. How are you? Perfect segue, especially if we talk about the Amazon. I'm in my sunroom surrounded by plants. So
you're in your sunroom that looks like the Amazon?
Yeah, surrounded by plants. I guess I could. Yeah. That's right. I love to.
I love that. I love that. Being on the show, the biggest thing, they got really great ideas from their coaches. They were able to create teams for them and whatever. But the biggest deal on the show for these contestants was the accountability from their coaches. And Marshall is the master at accountability. So I was wondering, because you've done so many things in business and you're a coach yourself, do you have any stories about accountability and how that's helped you in your life, or how that's helped a client of yours?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'd like to first relate it to my personal story. So here almost in about a month and a half, it'll be 20 years that I entered the mortgage profession. And being in the mortgage profession, I'm a consultant, I'm an advisor, and all those things. I'm really a financial mentor. Mm-hmm. And what's really interesting is I've had some ups and downs in the business, and it was in 2017 where I just felt like I was just hitting this plateau in my business. And I'm like, there's got to be something. And what I did is I sought after a mentor / coach. And what we did is we did weekly in-person mentoring sessions. Now, not all mentoring or coaching sessions are done in person, but I opted to do that because it brought another level of accountability. And in that accountability, I had an entire folder and forms that I had to fill out and report on how many calls I made to potential mortgage clients, how many new realtors did I reach out to. Mm-hmm. And what happened in 2017 is my business was a straight vertical. Like it just took off. I hit new records. I hit territories that I've never hit before. And when I first looked at accountability, it almost, for me anyway, it was almost counterintuitive. Like I was very resistant to it because it was kind of like, how dare somebody outside of me know something more than me, type of thing. And when right, a little bit of arrogance, and I think
a little hubris.
Some of that overlap. Yeah, I love the people in my spiritual community where they say, hey, everything is within. And I think part of that arrogance kind of came from that direction a little bit. I guess you could call it almost spiritual arrogance. And I carried that over to my business, and I finally just gave like, no, there's got to be somebody outside of me for accountability. And I like to turn to that story because ever since then, I've received multiple awards for my production, and top loan officer. I'm sought after by some of the top mortgage companies in the nation. And 23 was a retraction in business overall. But what I'd like to say around that is nearly 2/3 of loan officers didn't renew their license in 2023 because of the market shifts. And I'm the one that has continued to move forward even in a difficult market because of accountability and because of coaching.
Yeah. It's really interesting. As I'm a sports guy. I'm training for the Olympics in discus, and having a coach there to push me to things that I wouldn't normally do is something that has propelled me in a way. Like, yes, I can propel myself. Yes, I can be inspired and motivated. But having someone else there who knows what I can become and who inspires me and pushes me, brings me to a place that I don't know that I could get on my own.
100%. Yeah, and I believe coaches, mentors, experienced ones, they can typically also see something in somebody that they may not see themselves. And so in a way, you're borrowing their vision. And vision, as we know in business, is absolutely essential in moving forward.
Yeah, 100%. And I just wanted to thank some of the people who are watching right now, Ty and Jason and Joy and Monty and Savannah and Rebecca and Emily. I'm glad you guys are watching. Feel free to chime in at any time. And let us know if you're watching live or on the replay. So type in live or replay as you're watching this. This is something that's really important to me, especially with the reality show that I run. It's really a lot about accountability, and we can create all kinds of ideas, and we can put a team together for people. We can do all kinds of things to help someone, but the most valuable thing that I give to anyone on the show is that accountability. So this is when we talk about you moving forward in your business, Clayne. What was a moment that maybe you moved forward quicker than other moments?
I would say there was a belief in it, and belief can both be propelling, and also it can also hold you back. Belief can also be a trap, depending, limiting beliefs type of thing. But I guess I saw the power in it, and I guess it was even more beyond belief. It was a knowing and an understanding that, hey, if I literally do this activity, and when you have a coach or mentor who's pushing you in a direction, I'll say it's incredible. It can be incredibly uncomfortable, but when you see the vision of what's possible, and you can even borrow the vision from your coach or mentor, what I noticed for myself is being able to fledge forward, and in circumstances that I may not have done on my own.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jason, I'm glad you're watching live. Let's talk about that uncomfortability, that pain, as you will. Is that something to be avoided? Is that something to be searched out? What is that uncomfortability, that pain that you feel when you're being pushed like that?
I would say you push forward. You're forward in it. For me personally, I would say it was an element of pride. And so you have to get really real with yourself of why you're resisting being pushed. And for me, I just had to get, you have to get really willing to be real with you. And if you're hiring a coach or mentor, I would certainly say that, if you're investing that kind of money, you've got to bring your best self to the table. And part of that best self is a really incredible inner reflection. And you got to see some of the areas that you yourself are holding you back. And for me, it was pride.
Yeah, that's a big deal. So Jason asks, what characteristics in a person makes them a good accountability partner? That's a really good question. Do you want to take that claim?
Yeah, I'm happy to. So, what person makes a good accountability partner?
Yeah, what attributes
I
of
would
a person makes them good?
I would say, okay. So before I get into attributes, I would also say somebody who might be somewhat of a non-interested party. In other words, they're not necessarily benefiting from the revenue that you're generating.
Okay.
So there's not an ulterior motive. So I think that makes a really good non-biased, neutral third-party mentor. The characteristics, I would say the most important characteristic is somebody who has walked the path and has done it. Like there is a lot of coaches and mentors out there that say really good things that fall off their lips. But unless you've actually walked the path, I would say that you really don't understand it yourself, even if you're quote certified to coach, unless you've produced certain results. I don't think you'd be a qualified person. I think that would be one of the most important and fundamental aspects of coaching and mentoring.
So pardon me, I'm going to disagree on both points. And they're good points to make, actually. They're both very good points to make. The first point was make sure they're not a part of what you're doing and they're not benefiting from it. So in some instances that makes a lot of sense. In other instances, I've seen where they get percentage of profit and they're a lot more motivated to help them make the profit.
To mentor. Okay, I can see that.
Just depends on how that's structured, really. And the second point is it's coaching versus mentorship. So my discus coach has not been to the Olympics. He has not thrown as far as I have, and yet he can coach me and hold me accountable and get me to a place that I've never been before. So yes, I totally understand what you're saying. When you're trying to make a lot of money and trying to grow your business, you want someone who has made money and has grown their business. However, there is a difference between a mentor and a coach. A mentor is someone who's done it before. A coach may or may not be that person.
Yeah, that's a really good distinction. That's a really good, because the mentor is drawing from their personal experience, where a coach might be using a structure of metrics is different. And I think of who comes to mind right away. Like you mentioned sports, I think of Phil Jackson, who coached Michael Jordan, and Phil Jackson never performed at the level of Michael Jordan. And I do see your point in the coach, because the coach being able to stand outside the performance could actually talk to Michael Jordan and say, hey, look, here's what I'm seeing on the floor. And if you make this adjustment, you might be able to do this and that. So, and speaking of sports, I think part of what made Michael Jordan arguably one of the greatest, if not the greatest player of all time, is I think he had a phenomenal coach too.
He did. Absolutely.
I even heard he had 3 coaches. So,
well, I know he had a trainer and he had a skills coach as well as Phil Jackson. So, so let's talk about why a coach is important, why accountability actually is important. What makes a coach important? I have a coach myself. What makes that important for us?
There's an element where somebody outside of you is going to hold you to things that you say you're going to do.
Yeah.
So if there are certain activities that you're committing to for that week, that quarter, or that month or that quarter, having somebody there to report to effectively, and then go into the areas that you may have struggled in and why you're struggling in those areas. Typically you wouldn't do that analysis on your own. You really need a sounding board of somebody else.
Yeah. And in the case of Phil Jackson, I would say the idea is it's difficult to see the label from the inside of the bottle, right?
Yes, 100%. The instructions on how to get outside the box is on the outside of the box.
I like that. You were too wise, my friend. You got to read the instructions, and sometimes it helps someone on the outside looking in to say, this is what's going on, this is how you can improve, and this is what you should be doing to improve yourself. Yeah, I think that's a really brilliant point. So Clayne, as we finish this up, I want to hear a little bit about what you're doing right now. I know you're doing some projects right now. We're going to finish up in the next 2 or 3 minutes. I just want kind of a glimpse into the brilliance of your world right now.
Yeah, thank you. So one of the things that I encourage people to get comfortable with is the word fundamental. Everything in our business and in our personal life, and even in our body makeup in of itself, there are fundamental aspects that's moving forward. And so this is a conversation that I'm carrying into the various mentorships that I'm working with, and I'll tell you, I'll get really specific in some of the mentoring I'm doing. For example, to ring this home of the point is our body is approximately 70% water, depending on who you ask. And if that ratio were to fall too low, we would die of terminal dehydration. Yeah. And so that's a fundamental to our body. That's fundamental for our life. There are certain fundamentals in our business that we must focus on. And so if we're looking to propel ourselves forward, and this is the conversation I'm carrying in the mortgage business with my mortgage clients and my consulting in the mortgage business, is focusing on the fundamentals, because when the fundamentals are aligned, it makes everything else far more simple. Like when you're building a home, the fundamental of building, digging the hole and putting the foundation, you don't build the roof first. You have to focus on building, and this is a phrase that I say is your business and your personal life will rise or fall depending on how well you've aligned yourself with what those fundamentals. There's only a handful of fundamentals. So for example, in most sales businesses, real estate, insurance, like those types, a key fundamental is prospecting and getting in front of people.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. People. The lifeblood of any business is lead flow,
the
right?
Lifeblood. Yeah. And so if you're not doing that, and this is what I mean by aligning yourself with the fundamentals, that means aligning yourself with the fundamentals in a sales business, for example, is how are you doing on your prospecting? Because it doesn't matter how good your presentation is, if you're not prospecting, no one's going to have any eyes on your presentation.
Yeah.
And so that's the focus in what I'm doing. And then when I have clients I'm mentoring on a financial basis, I identify what the fundamentals are in that picture as well. So the fundamental that you mentioned, the Amazon. What I'm doing with the Amazon is I'm taking people to our fundamental roots of what I call reality. We have beliefs and perceptions of how things are, and by taking people into the Amazon jungle, disconnecting them from modern technology for 2 weeks, it gives them an opportunity to explore the fundamental nature of our consciousness. Because without consciousness, our bodies are dead. That's a fundamental reality. And few people really take a moment to explore that fundamental. And then when you can explore that fundamental, I see, and I can even point to my own life, that there's so many things that when that gets aligned, there's so many abundant things that flow from that experience of what is your consciousness and what is that all about? What's the origin of my birth? I know in business that might be like, why are you even cross-sectoring into that? The thing is, it isn't separate. Like the most fundamental aspect of business and life itself is that same consciousness. Because without it, you'll have no business because you're dead. I mean, sure, you could build the business, of course, it'd be carry on, but it'd be carried on by humans that have consciousness. And so that's kind of a direction that I'm going in to help people from a very, very incredible a deeper fundamental aspect.
Yeah. And Jason points out that being coachable is a fundamental. I love that.
I 100% agree. I 100%
Yeah.
agree.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I would even say I'm going to be releasing some of the episodes of season 1 for Ace in the Hole soon. You'll see those people who were coachable were able to make leaps and bounds in their businesses. It's funny because I work with coaches all the time, and I coach them on their businesses. And one of those just went crazy, just started making so much money in their business because they were extremely coachable. And another coach on the same show had a hard time because this person was not as coachable. They weren't as willing to see new things and new ideas and move in new directions.
Yeah.
So I think that is a massive fundamental.
When I hear uncoachability, when someone's not coachable, what I'm usually seeing in that territory is resistance. And so my first question around that is, why are you resistant? Are you being resistant to your magnificence? Like, there's a lot around people stepping into greatness, and their resistance to that, and it could be a money thing too. It could be like they might have a bad relationship with money, and what money might, like, they might think that money's evil. They might think that money's the root of evil, and that could be the resistance to being uncoachable.
Yeah. And Jason says it's ego. Definitely ego too, for sure.
Yeah, I agree. I would agree with that. Like pride, like I was talking about earlier.
Yeah. Guys, if you're on live watching, type in live in the comments. If you're watching in a replay, type replay in the comments, and feel free to ask us any questions. We'll be on later answering any questions that you may have. Clayne, thank you so much for joining me today. It was brilliant. And if you don't know, Clayne comes fairly regularly on Wednesday nights to the Mastermind here at my place. So if you're not coming, you should be here. Come and meet Clayne, because this guy is an absolute genius. So thanks for being on, Clayne. I appreciate you. Where can people find you and find what you do, and maybe join you in the Amazon?
Right now, they could find me at vasperlife.com. They can also find me on Facebook. I have a Facebook group called Vasper. They can also find me on Instagram under the Mortgage Mystic. And if they'd like to email me, they can email me at Clayne@vasperlife.com.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Clayne. And thanks, guys, for watching. Appreciate you. Again, if you have any questions, please post them below, and we'll absolutely answer them. Make sure to come to Mastermind Poker Night on Wednesday nights. And, we'll see you next time.
All right. Thank you so much, Nate. I appreciate it.
Take care, brother.